Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. I am Ashfaq and in today's video we will set up the EKS cluster, then we will install the ArgoCD, and then I will show you how to add the external Kubernetes cluster to the ArgoCD. Let's get started. If you are aware how to set up the EKS cluster, then you can skip this chapter and move to the next chapter. On the AWS console, I have created one Ubuntu T2 micro server and I have accessed it from my local system, and I have renamed it EKS Bootstrap server. So first of all, I will install the AWS CLI in this server. So I will first go to root and I will go ahead and download the zip package for the AWS CLI. I will install the zip unzip in my system. I will unzip the downloaded file. I will install the AWS CLI with this command. If I give the command AWS --- version, so this is the AWS CLI version which has been installed in my server. I will now quickly go ahead and install the kubectl in my server. I will first download the packages for the kubectl. If I give the command ll, so you can see here kubectl is not having the executable permission. I will give the executable permission with this command. So now kubectl is having the executable permission. I will move the kubectl file to the /bin, as we are having all the executable files in the /bin. If I give the command for to check the kubectl version, so this is the version of the kubectl installed in my system. Ignore this message because we are not connected to any Kubernetes cluster as of now. I will now go ahead and install the eksctl in my server. I will first download the required package with this command. So the packages has been downloaded to the tmp directory. I will go to tmp directory, and if I do the ll here, you can see eksctl is already having the executable permissions. I will move this eksctl to the /bin, and if I give the command eksctl version, so this is the eksctl version installed in my server. I will now go to AWS console. I will go to IAM roles, create role, AWS service or use case. I will select EC2. I will select here EC2. Next, I will select the administrator access. In the production environment, you don't need to provide the administrator access. You will have to give some other set of access to this role. This is my lab environment, so I am giving the administrator access. Next, I will give the name and create role. I will again go to EC2. I will select the EC2 instance, actions, security, modify IAM role, and I will select my role which has been created just now, and I will click on update IAM role. I will go back to terminal, and I will now go ahead and create the EKS cluster. I will give the command to create the EKS cluster. This would be the name of my cluster. I will give the region for my cluster. I will give the node type for my cluster. I will give the node count. I am giving the 3 node count for my cluster. So it has started the EKS cluster creation, which will actually take some time. So I will pause the recording here and I will resume it once it is completed. EKS cluster setup has been completed here. If I give the command kubectl get nodes, so these are 3 nodes created in my cluster. Next task is to install the ArgoCD on the EKS cluster. So first of all, I will create the namespace for the ArgoCD with this command. Namespace name is ArgoCD. Next, let's apply the YAML configuration files for ArgoCD. with this command. Now we can view the pods created in the ArgoCD namespace. To interact with the API server, we need to deploy the CLI. So I will go ahead and deploy the CLI. I will give the executable permissions with this command. To interact with the ArgoCD, we need to expose the ArgoCD server to the external world. For that, we need to create the service for the ArgoCD server. So I will create the service with this command. This service creation may take 4 to 5 minutes. If I give this command, it will show the service created for the ArgoCD. So this is the DNS name for the ArgoCD server. I need to now get the password for the ArgoCD. I will give this command. So this is my password. I need to decode it. So this is the decoded password. I will copy the DNS name for the ArgoCD server and I will browse it. Username admin. I will copy the password from here and I will provide it here. I will go to user info, update password. I will provide the current password. I will set the new password. So here we have completed to set up our ArgoCD. We need to now add the EKS cluster to the ArgoCD. So on the terminal, to add the EKS cluster to the ArgoCD, we will have to first log into ArgoCD from the CLI. So I will give this command. In this command, this is the DNS name of the service for the ArgoCD server and this is the username. I will provide the password which I have set previously. Okay, so we have successfully logged into the ArgoCD cluster over the CLI. If I go to ArgoCD dashboard and go to setting clusters, I will log in again. So you can see here I'm having only single cluster, which is the default cluster of the ArgoCD. No other cluster is there. And on the terminal, if I give the command ArgoCD cluster list, so here also you can see the only single cluster is there, which is the default cluster of the ArgoCD. Now to add the EKS cluster as the external cluster to the ArgoCD, I will first get the details of the EKS cluster with this command. So this is the name of my EKS cluster. I will now give the command to add the EKS cluster to the ArgoCD. ArgoCD cluster add, and I will provide the name of my EKS cluster. Hyphen name, and I will give the name to my EKS cluster inside the ArgoCD. I will hit enter. Yes. So if I give the command again, ArgoCD cluster list, so now it is showing the two commands, two clusters. One is default cluster of the ArgoCD and one is my EKS cluster, which I have added just now. If I go to dashboard, setting clusters, here also you can see one more cluster has been added here, which is my EKS cluster. In the final chapter, I will show you how to deploy the pods, how to deploy the application on the EKS cluster through the ArgoCD. So first of all, I need to connect my GitHub repository to the ArgoCD. So on the ArgoCD dashboard, I will go to settings, repositories, connect repo via HTTPS, type git project default. I will provide the repository URL. This is my repository on the GitHub. I will provide my username of the GitHub, and the password I will provide the personal access token. If you want to create the personal access token, just go to settings on the GitHub account, developer setting, personal access token classic, and here you can create the personal access token. I will click on connect. So connection to my repository is successful. I will go to applications, new app. I will provide the application name, project named. I will select default, sync policy automatic, and I will tick here prune resources and self fill. Source, I will select my repository, revision head, path, I will provide dot slash, and destination would be my EKS cluster. So in the drop down I will select my EKS cluster and namespace to which I want to deploy the application would be default. I will click on create. Okay, so application has been created. This is the pod detail. If I go to terminal and give here the command kubectl get pods, so these are the pods running in the default namespace, and if I give the command kubectl get svc, so this is the service created for my application, and this is the DNS name of the service. I will copy this DNS name and I will browse it on my browser with the port 8080 because my application is running on the port 8080. So this is the Apache Tomcat homepage. If I give the slash web app, so this is my application. By this way you can create the Kubernetes cluster, you can install the ArgoCD, and you can add the Kubernetes cluster to the ArgoCD and deploy the application on the Kubernetes cluster through the ArgoCD. You can follow the same steps for adding any of the Kubernetes cluster to the ArgoCD. Hope you find this video helpful. A lot of effort went behind this video, so do subscribe to my channel to encourage my work. Like the video, share this video with the friends and spread the knowledge. I will see you in the next video. Thank you.